welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Maria and today's video is quite a special one for me actually, and I'm really excited about it. But basically myself and 4 other booktubers have decided to collaborate together and do a bit of almost like a favourite book swap type of video. So basically what we've done is just come together and picked a favourite book for another one of the group. So basically just picking one of our favourite books or a book that we really want someone else to read, and we're all going to vlog the experience of reading it and see how we find it and see if we have some similar favourite reads or if it becomes a favourite read for us as well. So yeah, really exciting for me, and I've really loved getting to know these ladies over the past few months now. Actually, we were supposed to post it a little bit earlier, but things got in the way. But now that we're posting it, we've been chatting for quite some time now, and it's been really lovely getting to know them. So before we kind of jump into the book that I'll be reading and kind of what the selection was for me, I did just want to kind of give them a shout out. I love watching their videos, and if you don't already subscribe to them on here, definitely subscribe. They do some great vlogs and book hauls, TBR jars, all those good bookish things that we like on here. So first up is Observing Emma. Now Emma is from Scotland, so not too far from me, to be honest, and I love watching her videos. She has a really cool TBR video where she does like castle rules, and it's always really fun. Her videos are always really energetic and she always has me laughing, and her favourite genre is romance, and some of her favourite books are 7 Days in June by Tia Williams, Beach Read by Emily Henry, and Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. So if you're an avid romance reader and you like some of those same books, definitely go and follow her. Go and follow her anyway. As I say, her videos are always really fun. I always really enjoy them. So yeah, that's Observing Emma. Next up we have Sarah Anna Reads, and Sarah Anna loves fantasy romance, so another fantasy romance girl like myself. She's from the US, I believe in Florida, and she also does like to read romance as well. So some of her favourites are Throne of Glass, so currently doing a reread of that one. Absolutely love that series as well. Fucking Sweet by Emily Rath. Haven't read that, but it's been highly recommended within this group. And then Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage. So she says she's a huge kind of hockey romance fan, so admittedly I haven't read much of that, but I'm definitely going to be jumping into that after some of her recommendations. Again, Sarah's videos are always really great. She does some great vlogs, brings us along with her while she's reading some of these, so again, definitely go and subscribe to her. Next up we've got Bookish Melissa, and Melissa's actually living in China. She's from the US originally, but at the moment she's living in China. I believe she will be going back to the US at the end of this year, but yeah, at the moment she's still in China. She's mainly a romance reader, but does definitely like some good mystery and very light horror as well. And some of her favourite books are Rat Rules by Callie Hart, Pretty Reckless by L.J. Shen, My Dr. Czar by L.J. Shen and Parker S. Huntington, and Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. So again, a few in there that I've read, a few in there that I've really loved. Melissa again does some really lovely vlogs, and I think she's just started her ACOTAR journey as well, so I've been following along with that, so they've been really fun to watch. So again, go and subscribe to Melissa. And then last but certainly not least is Bailey, and she comes under Bae's Reads, and again she's a fantasy romance girl just like myself, so quite a lot of books that we have in common that we love. And that's quite fortunate because Bailey is actually the one who picked my book, but we'll get to that in a moment. She does say that she also does pick up a contemporary romance or a thriller here and there, so again very similar to myself. Some of her favourites are The Serpent and the Wings of Night, Red Rising, Throne of Glass, and Quicksilver, which I haven't read and I need to read that one soon because I see everybody kind of gushing about it and saying it's really good. And basically anything by Elsie Silver and Mariana Zapata, so Elsie Silver is definitely a favourite for me. Mariana Zapata I haven't read from her yet, but I definitely have to. And again, Bailey's channel is just really fun. She always does really fun vlogs, brings us along with her while she reads. I've watched a few of her unhauls as well. There's something about unhauls. I love watching an unhaul video, but again she just brings really great energy to it. So if you're not subscribed to all of those channels, definitely go and check them out and subscribe. They're all really lovely girls as well, so I can't speak more highly of them. But as I say, Bailey's actually the one who picked the book that I'll be reading this week. So she did forget to mention what book it was when she was putting her little video together, so I have a video from her to say why she chose this book, but the book that she's picked for me and the book that I'll be reading this week is Blood and Steel by Helen Schroer. So this one is one that I've had on my TBR for such a long time, and I'm almost hesitant to start it because so many people have said it's amazing and it's a 5-star read. It's the next best kind of fantasy romance read, and something about me is if I think I'm really going to love something, I almost worry myself so much that I'm not going to love it that I put off reading it. So this is one that I've had on my TBR, but I put off reading it because I was so afraid that I wouldn't love it. I believe there's 4 books in this series now, and I believe the series is completed, so I will be able to binge it if I do end up loving this one. But before I kind of go into what the book's about, I'll switch over to Bailey and she can tell you why she picked this book for me.
Hello friends, my name is Bailey from Bae's Reads, and I am so excited to get to recommend this book in particular to Maria. As a fellow fanro girly, I'm so excited that I get to recommend some fanro. Now Maria, I saw this book on your physical TBR, so what else was I gonna pick? First of all, I'm someone who likes to read from my physical TBR. Second of all, I had literally just rated this book at 5 stars the second that I saw it on your TBR. So when we thought about which books to choose, I couldn't choose literally anything else. I feel like this book is just a pillar of fantasy romance at this point. This book is not only right up your alley, but also it's just, you have to read it for, you know, research and scientific purposes. It's a requirement, naturally. There's training scenes, there's traveling scenes, there's so much banter, there's so much found family. The found family in this book and the friendships are immaculate. It has a really good balance of fantasy and romance, but I feel like there is a good amount of plot that goes along. It reads super fast paced. There's not a single thing that I didn't like about this book. I'm so excited to see what you think about this one, and if you absolutely hate it, on the bright side, at least it's off your physical TBR. And if you love it, we can fangirl over it together because I am obsessed with not only this book in particular, but this world. This magic system is really interesting. The big bad villain is really interesting. All of this whole book is just so interesting. And I'm so excited for you to read it.
Okay, so that's got me really excited to read this. You can see how much Bailey really loves it, and I've seen nothing but really good things about this series as well. So all I know about this one is we've got a main character, Thea, who has wanted to be a warrior her whole life, but I believe the land that she lives in, or the faction that she's trying to join, women are forbidden from wielding a sword, and that's obviously going to be the first hurdle. I know she ends up getting a trainer who I believe, have a bit of a rocky start. There's probably a little bit of banter in there, so it's like a trainer-trainee dynamic. And yeah, I just heard really great things about this. I do think it's going to have a good mix of fantasy and romance, and I've heard there's some trials in this around the end as well. So yeah, really excited to jump into this, really excited to see what it's all about, see how I enjoy it, and yeah, hopefully it's going to be a new favourite fantasy romance series for me. So just jumping on with my first update for Blood and Steel. I'm on page 136 and that's about 25% into this one, and so far really enjoying this. It's definitely giving the romantasy vibes that I've been looking for from this one. It immediately throws us into kind of some ominous mystery and kind of unrest that there is going to be coming to this land. It kind of gets us gripped from that very first chapter, and within the first chapter, the MMC, so Wilder Hawthorne, he gets quite a dramatic entrance, which I really loved. Our main FMC, Thea, was kind of watching two war swords who are basically the protectors of this land, the highest ranking warriors essentially. She was watching them from a cliffside. They were kind of having a chat about, as I say, some of this unrest that's going to be coming to the land. And up comes Wilder and his horse, and obviously it's mentioned about his muscles and his sheer size and his strength, and it's everything you want in a perfect romantasy. So really love that entrance, really love the start, and definitely a great chapter to get you gripped in the story with this one. Now, I think I said before, basically Althea, known as Thea, is living in a land where essentially women aren't allowed to wield swords, not allowed to wield any weapons really. And it's all because of a prophecy that was around 20 years ago, whereby it basically said a daughter of darkness would bring forward a dawn of fire and blood. And essentially around 20 years ago, a young girl was wielding a scythe, and it led to basically a war after that. And since then, the women of the world have not been able to wield any blades or swords or anything like that, and they're only really allowed to do women's work, which is basically like scribing or working with potions, or as Thea does, working as an alchemist. Now, at that time, a lot of the warrior women within the land did end up leaving because they weren't able to kind of do their duty within this land, and that's still kind of ominous as to where they went or what they're kind of doing at the moment, so we'll see where that goes. Now, a few things happen where Thea basically gets the opportunity to go and vouch to try and become what are called the the shield bearers, which are basically warriors within this land and protect the land. And as I say, as women aren't allowed to do this, she does have to go to the king to try and kind of champion for herself to become one. And of course her chaperone for this trip is Wilder Hawthorne, and at the minute there's just been a lot of kind of angsty banter between the two. You can tell they're both attracted to each other. There's kind of been not a one bed trope but one tent trope, which has been quite fun to read, but they're still in that kind of angsty banter I hate you phase, which is always really fun to read. I always love that kind of part of the narrative. So yeah, that's kind of where I am at the moment. Basically got up to the point of the synopsis where she's going to go and take the initiation tests, and yeah, just so far I think it's been a really fun read. Definitely giving me all those romanticy vibes that I look for when I'm reading a book like this. I do think there's quite a nice balance between the romantic side of this and the world building. In terms of this one, there does seem to be some lore about the original warriors who were called the Furies, and that is still who people would look up to today, and they were women as well. So interested to learn a little bit more about that, a little bit more about the lore. As I say, there were women within this land who were the warriors originally, and they did flee, so I'm guessing they're going to come back into the story. I'm guessing that's not a random plot point, but let's see what happens with this one. But yeah, so far so good, liking the writing style. It's pretty fast paced, it's got me gripped quite early on, so yeah, excited to read more of this one. Just jumping on because I'm on chapter 26, which is roughly around 64% of the book, so thought it was a good time to jump back in and give you another update on kind of what my thoughts and feelings are, how the story's going, and kind of just my enjoyment of the book. And I think the last time I did say that it was very much delivering on that romanticy side of things. We were getting all the kind of tropes that we're used to, and since then we've had a nightmare scene. So obviously I think I said there was a one tent trope in the last clip, so since then we've had the nightmare scene, we've had a who did this to you, and we definitely have all of that tension in there, kind of a will they, won't they. There's many instances where they're kind of having a little bit of a dalliance, and then straight away someone's kind of like, no, we can't do this. And it's definitely delivering, as I say, on all those romanticy tropes, and it's definitely really fun to read along with. It is a tiny bit insta-lovey for my personal preference. I don't feel like we've got enough of them kind of getting to know each other and understand each other to understand what the attraction is. It's very, very physical right now. Everything that they're kind of saying that they like about each other seems to be quite physical. It doesn't seem to be any deeper than that, but it's definitely not being set up as that they absolutely love each other or anything yet, but they're definitely very attracted to each other. But for me, again, I think just because there hasn't been any of that relationship building, it just means I'm not quite as invested in the relationship as I would like to be at 64% into the book. I would like to be really invested in the couple getting together. I think the tension is there. They're bickering. We've got the broody MMC with quite a feisty FMC, and it's the perfect combination to set up a really great romanticy. But I am only 64%, and maybe this is going to be a little bit more of a slow burn, and it will take a step back a little bit from where it is now. So I'll be interested to see where that dynamic goes. I will say that the characters are reading a little bit younger than they're supposed to be. I think the main female character is supposed to be 24 and the MMC is supposed to be around 30 or something like that. I would definitely say they're reading a lot younger than that, probably more around kind of the 19 and 24 age range, I would say, just respectively. It could be because Thea, who is the main female character, has been a little bit more sheltered in this time. I think it is obviously an atmosphere where they're supposed to be on the brink of war at any time, but when you actually think about the dynamic and the environment that they're in, she probably has been quite sheltered for quite some time. While she wants to be a warrior and she does have that feisty personality, she's never actually faced the reality of war. So it's two very different things, having the idea that you would like to fight and become a warrior and actually facing it. So that could be part of the reason she maybe is a little more sheltered than she's being portrayed to be at the moment. And I'm guessing maybe this book will be a little bit of a character arc for her to kind of realise that. I also think at 64% there are things happening, but nothing's really happening at the same time. So I kind of feel like we are kind of following a lot of day-to-day things going on, but there's nothing really progressing within the plot. It does feel like Helen Shearer is definitely just setting up this environment, setting up this world, wanting us to really understand where we are now. and then maybe the series progresses it as we go along. There is still obviously 35% within this book, and if we know anything about fantasy romance, it's usually the last 10% where everything starts to happen. But at the minute it's definitely feeling a little bit slow in terms of there are things happening but nothing really in terms of the overarching plot, if that makes sense. So I'm still interested, still keeping me interested in terms of reading it. I'm loving all of the side characters. There's one character called Kip, he's definitely keeping me intrigued and it's definitely had me laughing out loud a few times. So it's not to say that it's slow so I'm not enjoying it, it's just feeling a little bit slow in terms of the pacing, considering the start was so fast, or I felt like it was very fast for the first 10 to 20%, so it's feeling like it's slowing down a little bit now, but I'm guessing again that will amp up as it gets to the end because it is fantasy romance and that tends to be the way these things go. So I think overall I am still enjoying it. I'm still really enjoying the writing, I'm enjoying the characters, enjoying the world that is being built here. I just want a little bit more from it. I want a little bit more from this book to kind of grip me, because at the minute it's probably sitting at around a 3.5, which isn't bad. It's the first book in a series. I'm still intrigued enough where I think I would continue on within the series, but really hoping this last 35% just gives me something to really pull me in and reel me in there. And I'm guessing it does, because a lot of people who I know love this series rated this first book 5 stars as well, so interested to see what this last 35% holds. Lovely, so just jumping on to give you the final update for Blood and Steel, because I have now finished it. And was this a 5 star? No, not quite, but I did still really enjoy it. So I think this one gave me the perfect romantasy vibes, definitely hit all those tropes that I like to see in there. Read really fast, I felt like it was an enjoyable read. While it didn't blow me away, it did keep me invested and entertained enough to continue on with the book and to want to read the next book. Actually, I will be reading on in the series. And even though it felt like I read it quite fast, the pacing of the book wasn't quite as fast for me, especially around between 30 to 70%. In between that time, I felt like there were things happening, but also nothing was really happening to kind of forward the plot or to pull the plot to the next stage. So I felt like it was a little meandering in the middle there, but I do think that this book is very much a setup book. So this is setting up the world, setting up the lore, setting up the characters, and maybe the real story will start from book 2. I've got a lot of favourite romantasy series that start like that, where the first book is, yeah, it's okay, it was good, but it wasn't amazing. But then as I go into book 2 and onwards, they end up being some of my favourite series. So definitely not saying that that won't be the case for this one. As I say, it seems to be a formula that a lot of these romantasy series uses, so it could just be that this is one of those cases. I did really like Thea. I think that the way that the author had her is almost flawed, because she did have tunnel vision, and yes, she was determined, she had this goal in mind to become a shield bearer and to become one of the war swords, but it was almost like tunnel vision at some times, where it was showing that she couldn't really see where other people were coming from or what was important to them, so almost was to her detriment. But I did actually like that as an aspect of the character, because it was shown as a bit of a flaw, where being determined, yes, can be great, but you do kind of have to open your eyes to what's happening around you as well. I do think that her character was weakened a little bit as soon as the relationship started to build with the main male character, so Wilder Hawthorne, because I felt like she was kind of giving up on that determination and her determination for her dream, essentially, because a lot of what she was thinking about was being distracted by him, and yeah, it just felt like she was at a point where she was finally realising this dream but getting distracted by someone who was really good looking. And yes, I mean, let's be honest, we can all be guilty of that, but I think I could have done with less of that in this first book, especially since they had only just met. And as for Wilder, so the main male character in this, we did get his POV in here. There was a few chapters of his POV thrown in throughout the story. A lot of what I felt we were getting from him was just his lust for Thea and how he felt about Thea. I'm not sure we were getting enough of kind of his backstory, and again, I think it is part of the ploy within this one to make his background a bit more mysterious so that we're invested in him and where he's come from and why he is the way he is. But I do think a little bit more might have helped us understand kind of this insta lust between the two, because I do feel like there was very much that instant attraction between the two, and it just seems to get stronger and stronger throughout the story without there really being any development in their relationship, from my perspective anyway, on a personal level in terms of their connection to each other. A lot of it does seem to be physical and kind of how they feel about each other in terms of their attractiveness. and things like that. So to speak on the romance, that side of things did lack a little bit for me because, again, as I say, I just didn't feel connected to it because it did seem like it was a lot of physical reasoning behind it rather than there being a connection between the two. Even though I feel like they did have plenty of scenes together which were filled with kind of flirty banter, but there didn't seem to be as much of that connection as I would usually like within a story like this, especially because this, even though it was insta lust, it was a little bit slow burn as well, which kind of contradicts itself in saying that, but it was kind of a build up to the end. But I do think that a lot of the tension and the angst was more to do with their attraction to each other rather than that kind of personal connection. So yeah, I just felt like I wasn't as invested in the relationship as I would like to be, but again, we're only on book 1, so let's see where that goes. I did love seeing her friendship blossom with Kip and Cal. It was nice to see there to be kind of male and female relationships that for the most part stayed pretty platonic. It was just nice to see them kind of growing together and building that relationship. I would have liked to see more from her sister Ren within this one, but again, it's part 1 of a 4-book series, so I'm guessing her sister will play a much bigger role in the next few books given what happens in this book. And yeah, I just think with this one, it was a little bit predictable for me. It was a little bit expected in terms of how things ended and where the narrative went, and just in terms of kind of the character arcs as well. I don't think it's anything unique or different to what we're seeing in the romantasy genre at the moment, or since it's kind of conception. I do think that these are quite basic standard tropes. However, I do think they were executed in quite a good way. It did keep me intrigued, did keep me entertained, and the way that it ended, I do want to move on to book 2 as well, so I won't be DNFing this series or anything. And that might sound like I'm being quite negative about this one, but I do think it's probably around a 3.75, potentially 4-star. I probably will round it up to 4-star on Goodreads and Storygraph, but for me it wasn't quite at that just when reading it. I wasn't as fully invested as I would usually be with a new romantasy. So yeah, still really enjoyed this. Still really glad that Bailey decided to give me this one to pick up because it's definitely one that's been in my TBR for quite some time, so gave me an opportunity to pick it up and see what I've been missing out on, and I'll be excited to move on to book 2 in this one as well. So yeah, that's everything. If you haven't already, definitely check out the rest of the girls' booktubes below. I'll have them all linked in the description box, so they're all great. I love all of their channels, so if you're not already subscribed to them, definitely go down and check them out. If you've made it this far, also tell me your favourite booktuber on here as well. I'm constantly looking for new people to subscribe to, so it would be great if you can tell me some of your favourite booktubers because I'd love to go and check them out as well. If you like this video, do remember to give it a like, and if you want to see more from me, remember to subscribe. I'm posting 2 videos per week, so it's videos like this, so reading vlogs, book hauls, come shopping with me, all good bookish things like that. Other than that, thanks so much for watching this one. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one soon. Bye!